The call to order the regular open meeting of the school committee for April 10th. Please stand for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This meeting is being shown live on cable and being live streamed on the West Bridgewater Community Access Media website, wb-cam.org. A recording of this meeting will be available on wb-cam.org. First, like to introduce our newest school committee member, Christine Mayaskowski.
Yep.
Yes, all right. Welcome. We're very glad to have you. Congratulations, and thank you for volunteering to be on this committee.
Thank you.
First order of business is reorganization of the school committee officers, and I'd like to see if there's a nomination. We'll start with for the chairperson.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Donna Hume as the chair of the West Bridgewater School Committee. Is there a second?
Yep.
Discussion? So discussion, I think Donna, you've done a nice job over the last year. And so I think we all work pretty collaboratively. I'd like to see, I think last year we had more open meeting discussions, and I think, Mr. Bodwell, you do a great job of giving us heads up of things, but I'd like to continue that we grow in those open meeting discussions, and I think you'll do a nice job with that.
Great. Thank you very much.
Any other discussion?
I've also enjoyed working with you over the last year. We've had a lot to learn in joining the school committee. There's a lot coming at you all at once,
Yep.
and you've helped guide us through that. So I'm happy to vote for you for our chairperson again.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right, pass the gavel. Do that with care. I would like to make a motion to nominate Mrs. Dragonetti as our vice chair.
Second.
Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
And then for clerk, I would like to make a motion to appoint Carrie Milton as our clerk for the next year. Can I get a second?
Seconded.
All right, discussion? She's very thorough with notes. She's the right person for the job. All in favor?
Aye. Great. Thank you very much. So next up is our subcommittee appointments. And I would like to make a motion to appoint to the Donations and Dedications Committee, Mrs. Milton. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. And I'd also like to make a motion for the Warrant Budget Subcommittee, and I'd like to nominate Mrs. Dragonetti and Mr. Schmier for that one. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up is the policy review, Mrs. Dragonetti and Mrs. Milton. I'd like to make a motion to appoint them since they're doing such a wonderful job going through all of our policies. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And for the sick bank representative, I would like to make a motion to nominate Mrs. Mayaskowski to be our rep for the sick bank committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then,
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to nominate Mrs. Hume and Mr. Smear to the Capital Budget Facility Subcommittee. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
So moved. And I'd like to make another motion to nominate Mrs. Hume and Mr. Smear to the Personnel and Negotiation Subcommittee. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved.
And I would like to make a motion to nominate Mrs. Hume and Mrs. Milton to the Safe Schools representative. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I think that's all of them. Next up is another voting issue. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Bodwell to serve as a member on the Board of Project Contemporary Competitiveness Incorporated for the 2023-2024 fiscal school year. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? ECC appointment? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And then another motion to appoint Mr. Bodwell to serve as the West Bridgewater Public Schools representative, excuse me, on the Board of Directors of the North River Collaborative for the 2023-2024 fiscal school year, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 4E, as amended by Chapter 43 of the Acts of 2012. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And one more. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Bodwell to serve as the West Bridgewater Public Schools representative on the Board of Directors of Reed's Collaborative for the 2023-2024 fiscal school year, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 4E, as amended by Chapter 43 of the Acts of 2012. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved. Next, I'd like to introduce and welcome tonight's student representative, Bella Morash. Bella, thanks for being here. It's nice to see you, and we appreciate you taking your time to join us. All right, moving right along, approval of minutes. We have two sets of meeting minutes to approve. First are the minutes from our March 6th, 2023 meeting. I'd like to make a motion to approve the March 6th meeting minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Next is the approval of minutes from our March 9th, 2023 meeting. I'd like to make a motion to approve the March 9th minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, Mr. Bodwell, Superintendent's update.
All right, I want to start with the FY24 budget update. I just recently reposted the budget book out on social media, and it's been on our website along with all of our presentations that we've made during this budget season, so I do encourage people to look at that, review all that information. It's really all contained in those presentations and in the budget book and through our discussions if they want to watch the tape. I just want to kind of allow the committee as well to talk a little bit about some of the meetings that we've had after our budget was presented. In April, we met with the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, and I thank the members who attended those meetings. And then in March, we met, and then in April again, we met recently as they made their recommendations. So thankful and grateful to have that opportunity for us to go in front of the boards to provide information, answer any questions they may have, and then be part of, listen in on as they discussed the budget. So I didn't know if people wanted to share information about those meetings.
I'd like to start off by saying that I was a little disappointed in those meetings. I don't think they went the way that we hoped that they would, although we kind of expected that's what might happen. I don't believe that the budget that was presented to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee is the same budget that we approved. And according to Massachusetts state law, a school committee should approve the school district's budget, and that's what should go on the warrant before the town meeting. I think we should seek some legal advice on what we can do with that. I don't believe that the slimmed down version of the budget is what should be on the town, on the warrant for the town meeting. And I think that it's not exactly a done deal yet. I don't believe the Board of Selectmen has finalized their warrant for the town meeting. There are a lot of parents who are upset with the way that the school budget was handled as well. The PTO has created a flyer that they would like to send out to all the parents. So, I think we can look at that and maybe discuss whether or not we can send that out.
I think also, as on the budget subcommittee, I know Mrs. Grant and Mr. Bodwell spent a very long time on this budget, and Mrs. Grant had said the week or 2 weeks before it was finalized that it was way over 7.78%. And she worked very hard to get it down, very hard. And so it's really discouraging to present this budget that we've already pared down and trimmed the fat on, and an arbitrary number of, well, we think you should only get 6% is very discouraging. And so I'm hopeful we can have a discussion tonight about what, and I see it's on the presentation here, what that $271,000 actually translates to, because we've already trimmed the fat. So there is no fat, and it will have a real impact on the students of West Bridgewater if at town meeting the taxpayers decide to approve that cut on us.
And we've shown, data before, presentations about where we're lacking additional staff. I think we're going to gather more data as well, because, as Mrs. Dragonay said, there is no fat to this. It'd be wonderful if we could say, well, yeah, we can do without. But these are all needs. They're needs that we have for our students and our staff to provide them with the best education possible. So to cut away from those is dramatically going to affect their education. And I think that's what they need to understand, that this isn't something that we can just, look at a budget and say 6% works for us, because it doesn't work in reality. When we look at cutting that, it's going to be people and/or programs. And I can go into those now if you want, in terms of a general overview to open up a discussion. But, one of the areas that, we would have to look at is if we cut staff, we would be talking, 4 to 5 staff members. We would have to reduce based on seniority. So you're talking about people who are, in the lower, probably more likely, in the first few years. So $55,000 to $60,000 dollars per staff. But the concern is, where do we take those from? When you look at staff, our classes right now, we'll talk about this when we go to school choice, but our average in the elementary schools are around 23. At the high school level, they're around that and sometimes higher. And when you start looking at our population growth, that's 23 right now. We've seen a steady increase in our enrollment due to students moving into town. And now if you take one of these bubbles, and we have bubbles in certain grades, right now in kindergarten, 1, 2, and 4, right? I'm thinking ahead. So that if you cut those down, then we would be talking 28 to 30, and that's now. And that's with certainly no choice being added. 28 to 30, when you're looking at the numbers in the spring, they're more than likely going to look very different in the fall as more homes get finished, as an apartment building gets finished near Honeydew and so forth. So I get very nervous about class size at this point.
About how many have we had move in? I mean, I know my 6th grader, her class increased by probably a handful from the beginning of the year. So if we're looking at 28 at the beginning of the year, we're really in the spring looking more like 30.
Correct. Correct. We've seen a steady increase throughout this year. It hasn't been as dramatic yet, because I don't think we've had the completion of a lot of homes. But springtime's the time people sell, and usually if it's someone who is retiring or moving somewhere else, they're going to be selling to, more likely than not, families coming into town with younger kids. That's what we've seen. Again, we've shown graphs of our steady increase in population. We're in about 1430, I think, right now. We're about 1414 not that long ago, and we'll continue to trend up. It won't go the other way. So that's a scary thing to think of, because the number one factor in our students getting the best education is going to be small class size.
And I think in light of that, it's completely unacceptable to reduce the number of staff that we have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think,
Be a non-starter.
I don't know, I don't remember if I was having this discussion with you or with Mr. Bodwell over, if we increase class sizes, we're really doing a detriment to our special populations, to our special education students, because we know we all work better in smaller groups. and those are the kids that are going to slip through the cracks. And we've worked very hard to build the budget and to add resources for special education students and EL students. And if we are just going to turn around and then make these classes huge, we're going to watch those kids slip through the cracks.
Absolutely. Another area that we would discuss to get down to this 271,000 would be athletics. If we cut middle school and sub-varsity athletics, the savings for just the coaching salaries would be around 60,000, maybe up to 70,000. There would be some savings in transportation, but sometimes they do travel on the same bus, so going to the same site. You would have some savings in officials and uniforms and so forth. So there would be a bit of a savings there. If you extend it up into all athletics, you're talking a lot more money. But that's a thing we'd have to discuss. We'd also have to discuss extracurricular activities. We pay about $100,000 in stipends, mostly at the middle senior high school, but we do have some stipends for teachers at the elementary schools for activities and clubs for our kids. We could cut those out as well. Again, it's certainly affecting the overall experience of our kids. We could look at fees. Right now, we have a $250 user fee, one time for 1 to 3 sports. If we doubled that, and we had the same number participating, and we're averaging around 300 or so, 350, we're talking a $70,000 to $80,000 increase. But now we're doubling the amount, and we do also waive that for certain families if they can't afford it, so that's certainly another area. We would love to say we could add more school choice to our budget, but we'll talk later about the difficulty we're going to have just filling the spots we have.
And some of the feedback that we were receiving from the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen were things which were in contradiction to what they were seeking to do by lowering the budget. For instance, parents not having to contribute supplies to the school, cleaning supplies or crayons and pencils and stuff for the
Back to
younger
school
grades.
supplies, yeah.
So if we're going to include that in our budget, it should not be decreasing. We also heard that we should be less reliant on school choice, which would decrease the amount of school contribution to the budget.
Correct.
We also heard that, I lost my train of thought, but we've heard several ideas that would increase the need for a larger budget.
Right.
The feedback that we're getting from them does not tell us that we should be cutting by
Well,
this
I
much.
think it just really speaks to how this 6%, putting a 6% cap on our budget, is really an arbitrary number. It really is. And, when we look at the whole town budget, some of the things that were discussed were this extra debt pay down of $350,000 on the middle senior high school. So for those of you who didn't watch or attend the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen meeting, we pay a payment on the middle senior high school, as we all pay our mortgages. And every year from free cash, they set aside an additional $350,000 to make an additional payment on the middle senior high school. So for me, when I think about, I don't starve my kids all month just to make an extra mortgage payment. And so I think that the taxpayers really need to be aware of, this was a very thoughtful budget that was created, and 6% is not going to work. And if we're spending that on other things as taxpayers, we're really not funding our students.
And we've, needed to add staff, add teachers over the last couple of years because of the needs. And just because we add them doesn't mean now they're surplus and we can do without. The things we've had to add to really service our students are EL population, special education, one-on-ones for students. So these are all needs that we have. Just to cut them, it doesn't make sense, but it's really not possible without having dramatic effects throughout the schools.
So you're saying there's no empty classroom with no students that has a teacher that we can cut?
None.
One other point I do want to make, this did come up at the Finance Committee meeting, that it just so happens we're asking for $1,086,585 over fiscal year '24. And that equates to about $17,000 less than our Chapter 70. You know, this budget was created before we even knew what the Chapter 70 numbers were going to be for fiscal year '24. So that really speaks to how well Mr. Bodwell and Mrs. Grant and all of the staff that work under them know the district, because they came up with a number that matched the state almost exactly. So to cut us is really saying that we don't think that we have those students that Chapter 70 has identified or that we're receiving funding for.
And we did hear from a Finance Committee member who's now on the Board of Selectmen that he does not believe the numbers that the state creates for all districts in the state so that we can compare apples to apples. He does not believe numbers.
And the Chapter 70 number wasn't, they didn't just look at a map of Massachusetts and throw a dart and say, oh, good, we're going to give West Bridgewater a 22.6% increase. There's a reason we got that. Our high needs are up, our student population is up. There are many needs that we have, and Chapter 70 is the program, the major program designed to give state aids to schools across the Commonwealth. Yes, it goes to the town. It's not like school choice money that goes directly to the schools. It goes to the town, but it is aid that is designed to go to the schools to meet the needs of the students and staff in the schools. And to get this money is something that really benefits the town, because it's money that they didn't have to come up with. We've shown over the last couple of years, the town has been very, very fortunate in our increase. We're increased $744,000 a year before. So this funding is great because it means that's less that the town has to contribute to the school's budget. But as we've shown before, the town percent has decreased while Chapter 70 has increased. Again, it should be considered a good thing, I think, for the town that they're not having to foot this extra amount. We know, as Mr. Schmier said, once our school choice goes down, that is going to have to be picked up by the town. But there's a reason why it's increased, and there's a reason why we should be spending it on the schools, because of the needs of the schools.
One of the things, and I know we should move along, we've had a pretty lengthy conversation about this, but we need to think about what we are going to cut from the budget if we have to. And I don't see how we can cut staff. I just don't.
I can't see how we can cut teachers and support staff. I can't fathom having a school district where we have to cut sports. I think that's pathetic, to be honest. I think that's
Yeah, absolutely.
that's not adding anything to the children's overall educational experience.
And what the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen are saying to us is, we don't care. I got a phone call today from a selectman saying, that's not our position, we don't want to cut the school's funding, but they vote to cut the funding.
And I just want to, I know we've said it many times before, but I'd love to get it out there that we want to keep the lines of communication open with the selectmen and the Finance Committee, and that we've said it multiple times. They're always happy to meet, to discuss our budget, to go over it with them, and that stands true. I mean, when we talk about, nobody wants a classroom with 30-plus kids in it. I think the only possible thing I would be somewhat comfortable with is we will have to increase the fees, which is going to be a burden on the parents anyway. So it's not a good place to be, but as always, I appreciate the work that you both have done on the budget subcommittee, as well as Mr. Bodwell and Mrs. Grant and everyone else who's worked on it. Because it is a fair budget, it's what we need, and
I mean, and I hear and I greatly appreciate the committee members saying we don't want to cut teachers. My only concern is if this budget isn't passed at town meeting, then we'd have to make that cut of $271,000. So that's just that's just putting out there the concern. And I know that the teachers understand it, and I hope they listen to this and hear the committee members saying we don't want to cut teachers. But we do have if we are going to reduce, we have to reduce by April 15th, which would be this Friday, to give notice, knowing that May 8th we would know if the budget's approved or not. So I just wanted to put that out there as a contractual obligation.
So we don't have much time to really do anything about it. I don't think we could even call another meeting between today and the 15th. So it seems like we need to make a statement now that we don't feel like a reduction in force is something that we can entertain. Can we make a motion on that? Is that something that we can actually do with a policy by the school committee, that we would not make that our first choice? We'll seek any other means before we'll accept that option?
I don't think that's a voting issue. It would really fall under the superintendent.
Well, yeah, I mean, my concern would be if they're not notified, if the budget is cut, then we may have issues in reducing staff. And I completely hear that that's not the wish or desire of the committee, or that's at least what I'm hearing. So, I just don't know. I think prioritizing fees and cuts, or whether it's extracurricular fees, athletic fees, reducing clubs and activities, or JV sports, which I agree is not at all a good answer, because that's or charging someone $250 to participate in the lovely drama club presentation of Legally Blonde when you had 40 to 50 kids, giving up all this time, and now we're going to charge them $250 to participate in it.
I think you'll see diminishing returns from that strategy, because if you start charging $1,000 per event, nobody's going to do it.
I agree.
And so you're going to get nothing.
Yeah.
So, and there's only so much money you can raise by cutting things like this.
I know we don't get a lot of emails from parents. I know Mr. Bodwell does. We don't get a lot of emails from parents. But I would love to get some emails from parents hearing their thoughts on this. And of course, we're going to fight for the budget. But if we have to cut 271, I mean, if we're looking at large classes versus cutting sports, or a combination of both, where do parents lie on this?
That's a good point.
Thank you all. All right. Next is a school choice update. I did cover a little bit of this, but as I stated before, we had, now we're over 160 applications for grades K to 12, a lot in the elementary. Our K enrollment right now is undetermined. We have a similar number to last year from the census, but they're slowly coming in. We've really put it out there that we want to try to get those numbers. Our thought and our hope would be to stay with 4 sections rather than going to 5, but we've been having to go to 5 the last couple of years. Our grade 1 to 6 class sizes average around 23, some a little bit smaller, some a lot bigger. For example, the grade 6 that was referenced is a lot bigger. We have studied, and we continue to study, the population changes. Every month I get a report that states the enrollment on the first of the month, so I'm putting that into a chart to see where we're going, where are the changes. And they're not dramatic in any real areas, but they're continue to go up. So that in itself becomes dramatic, because they're not staying the same or going down, they continue to increase. Our bubble grades for next year will be, as of now, 1, 2, 3, and 5. That means that there will be 3 bubbles at the Roselle McDonald. We can support bubbles at the 2 Roselle and the Howard. We can't go to 6 in any. We literally do not have space to go to 6. Even going to 5, we're taking some spaces that really are not the best educational spaces. So that's my concern, is you add a couple in each grade, 5 or 6, and over the next 3 or 4 years, now you've created another whole class. And those are just simply in the move-ins. And again, we've been told that the town population will reach 10,000 in the not too distant future. So that's important to remember. And some of the grades that we do traditionally add is the current incoming grade 7. That's at 108 as of April 1st. Usually that was, around 100, maybe a little bit less. And since they go to 5 sections in 7th grade, we could add. Right now, that's very tenuous because that's already a big number. We get a few move-ins, we're in the teens right now. And our current grade 8, which will be the incoming 9th grade, has 116. We have a few that go to private every year. We have a number that go to Southeastern. The ones that go, it's the best program for them. We lose 20 to 25 maybe with the combination. We're losing, maybe one to an agricultural school. So we'll be able to fill some in there. But again, we budgeted 260, and we're losing 40 seniors. So to remain at that, we've got to bring in 40 students. To do that just in grade 9 isn't going to work. To put them, here and there, it may work, but it's going to be very difficult to get to that 260. So I think people need to understand that we built the budget using 260 because we were trying to keep our school contributions up. Ideally, would we have loved to say 240 or even lower? Sure. That's a big difference because for every 10 students, we're talking $50,000. So it adds up quickly when you can't fill those spots. We've always said, and we did it last year, we're not going to take school choice students just to get our money because it's going to adversely affect the education of our kids. We did take, I think, 5 in kindergarten last year. We're at 105 right now because we went to the 5. Cautious about adding more, though. And we took a few siblings in the elementary level last year, and a couple moved out, and we didn't have a waiting list so they could stay. So I think in total it was about 9 or 10, I think, that we added in the elementary K to 6 last year. So if we do that again, I'd be thankful, to be honest with you.
Mr. Barber, can
yes.
you remind me when we get the figures for the K enrollment? Do you know?
I think,
Get that right up to open enrollment. So typically, most of our enrollments come June and July.
Okay.
We check it constantly. Right now, we're about the same like we were last year in enrollments.
Okay.
But we still have a good population of our current preschoolers that we know are going to kindergarten.
Yep.
That still haven't registered.
Oh, okay.
I think sometimes you kind of forget they have to
Yeah.
enroll them. So it's a good reminder, enroll, so we know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
So, I know Mrs. Grant does not like this conversation because I know it's money. But when we met with the Finance Committee at a special meeting last year, we talked about, that this is such an important number for us, and it's done a lot of good for us over the years. But with the increase in population, we're reaching that tipping point where it's becoming difficult to keep the numbers. And we showed that in the budget presentation, going down. Again, estimating, it's hard to even do that, but 30 a year after this year.
As someone this is my first budget process this past year, I haven't been able to really pinpoint the vibe because I feel like there's always so many questions that I had watched the year prior or this year about school choice. It's always school choice, school choice, school choice. But yet, to your point, every 10 students, is less $50,000, right? So, which is it?
Yeah.
I just can't pinpoint. Do you want the school choice, or do you not want? The feeling from the town. Are you going to give us that difference?
And I think it's, again, important to remember that school choice allows us to give $1.5 million of school contribution.
Yeah.
That if that was not present, that would have to be made up somewhere.
Exactly. That's my point.
The money is, it's just, and these are things that, again, we're filling spaces that are available. We're not hiring new teachers. We're buying maybe some new Chromebooks, but everything else the same. We're heating the same rooms. The
Right,
electricity is all the same. So is there some cost with that? Yeah, there's definitely some cost. But over the past 20 years, it's saved us, $20, $30 million. Saved the town.
And everyone's always been very careful about watching those numbers and making sure that we don't take on too many. So
Right.
it has been successful for us, but we can't control if population grows, and we'll have to lose some of those, so.
Right. And then next was the MSBA Statement of Interest update. So I did submit the Statement of Interest last month, so that is in officially accepted for the Howard School. We have submitted our initial compliance certification, which had to be done prior to March 31st, so that's in. The next upcoming deadlines are the School Building Committee, which needs to be finalized by May 1st, and our Educational Profile Questionnaire finalized by May 30th. So those are some upcoming things, and then we have a little bit of time until the end of August. More things have to happen, and the big thing will be the going to town meeting for a feasibility study has to be done within the 270 days of March 1st. So that is November 23rd or something like that. So we're moving through the process. Bed stabilization. So what you see here is what will be read as the town warrant. Basically, what we're looking to do is add into the Special Education Stabilization Fund $91,981.33. This is from unexpended school capital projects in the past. I believe it's dating back to the 90s. It's an account that has really just been sitting there. Kathy Grant did a great job working with the town accountant to really identify this and say, all right, look, can we take this and move it into the Special Education Stabilization Fund?
Has that amount been in an account for more than 20 years? Did I just understand that correctly? Oh, okay. It's an account that's existed.
It was a single account that all warrant and capital bond proceeds were deposited into. The bonds have been completely paid off, and so this is just unidentified remainders from warrants that might have not been fully spent. The bonds were paid off, so it isn't bond proceeds. And it was really, we were unable to trace where, what pieces made up the remainder. So, but going forward, and actually for the past 3 years, each time we've had a school warrant, for instance, I can't even think of the last warrant request we had. We'll just say capital, purchasing the truck for the maintenance group. We set up an entirely new account. The town accountant starts a brand new account number and account for each warrant item, so you will never run into this unreconciled remainder.
So this isn't costing anyone any money, it's just simply taking money that really has been unused and put it somewhere we can use it. We can use it as the state's for FY24 budget or until it's needed. So the goal would be to add it to the about 19,000 that remains after we move the 30,000 out to keep in there as needed for future needs. And just update on that, we're still waiting to hear from a collaborative if they are going to be selling off any transportation vans. Once they know, we're going to be one of the first calls. It'll go to an auction, and hopefully we can purchase that and move forward. And I just want to bring again to everyone's attention, this did come up at the last Finance Committee meeting, so I thought it was good to share this information again. We are making, there'll be a town warrant for a capital budget request for elementary touch panels, 40 interactive touch panels that will be in the pre-K classrooms, so our 3 pre-K classrooms all the way up to grade 6. It's going to benefit over 700 students for the next 5 to 10 years, and 5 is definitely the low end. It's something that if we do move, hopefully to a new school, they can be moved. They're very flexible. They'll be affixed to the wall. We are behind the times in terms of other districts. Talking to John Collins even today, pretty much all area schools have some type of interactive technology. Most of them are similar touch panels. It's going to, really enhance our new curriculum and enhance the learning experience of all of our students. The cost is $95,000, thereabouts. Again, that's a small percentage of the capital budget request, which was well over $1 million for town, so it's a small percentage. We're talking way less than 10% of the town's capital budget requests are coming from the schools, and I think there's big bang for this buck. It's a lot of, we're going to get a lot of use out of this. It's going to change the teachers have had them in the classrooms, they've had the opportunity, they've been talking about it at staff meetings. We'll do training, we'll make sure that they're very prepared. It's pretty user-friendly, so it won't take a lot of training. But I think it's going to be a real game changer. And I did link to the 4-page document that we created, so people can look more. It'll be posted on the website as well, so people can review it. So if they have questions or concerns, they can reach out to John Collins or any of the principals or myself to say, what are they, what's the need, and so forth. But we strongly hope that it's something that we can have in our classrooms next year.
And you, Mr. Bodwell, these are transferable if we move to different schools?
Yes, yep, they will definitely be able to be moved, either, more likely probably not to the new one. I mean, our high school technology is already 8
I know,
years old.
SA, yeah.
And again, I think, and I haven't really talked about this, but I think down the road, these are things that I believe, as I mentioned, that our requests to the town are small for capital. We're requesting, on average, over the past 3 years, probably 5 or 6% of the capital items. When we have needs, middle, senior high school, these short throw projectors, when we have laptops that we need, these are our essential items that we need. So these are things that we may want to really consider bringing forward more often, because what we're doing is we're putting them into our budget and we're supporting it that way. But these big items, these big ticket items, the town should see the need, because it's tough to budget for a 95,000. We don't have 90, we have to really work at, even Chromebook leases that we put into our budget are things that, really maybe should be considered as capital requests. So it's something we can talk about more as a committee.
All right, so there are more items that we possibly could move to capital rather than keeping it in our budget.
I think that's something we should consider.
We don't have 271,000 worth in there right now.
No, we do not.
Thought I solved it.
All right, and Mrs. Page, a cell phone policy update, please.
Hello. So needless to say, the staff love it. Students are being great with it. But what I did is I asked for some feedback from the staff and students. So I picked out just a few comments that I was going to read. So this is the staff feedback. Love it. Notice a huge difference in lesson engagement and interaction between peers. Bathroom trips seem reduced on the whole. Those are we have our frequent flyers, which we still, that's always going to be an ongoing thing. One of the big things sometimes could still use some parent support on students not having 2 phones. So they're very smart. They'll bring in a burner, so they'll put that burner up sometimes. And, those are just some things. So just staff asking, for that parent support at home really helps. But I love it. It's easy to implement. It keeps it structured throughout the whole school. It's second nature for most. I would add that if behavior issues are due to phone interactions, they lose their privileges, which they do, then they have to hand them in the morning. In big caps, it's working. I have noticed a complete change in the students' ability to focus and stay on task in class. Much less distractions in class, easier to redirect. More peer-to-peer interactions and discussions, and so forth. So it's pretty much, teachers love it. It really keeps the students focused. The students were great, and I asked, I sent out a Google form, and I asked for constructive criticism, and to be honest, and let us know. So I just took some things from them. I think the phone policy should be decided by the teacher. And we did that years ago, and what it did, we found it just pitted teachers against, because students would come in and they say, well, this is so-and-so lets us use their phone. And so it really, it put the teachers in a position that they didn't need to be in. The only problem I found is it's hard to get into contact with my parents, and that actually came up quite a bit with students. I think in this day and age, they're so used to being able to get instant contact with their parent. And again, we just try to tell them that if there's ever an emergency, or if there's ever, and you're feeling the need to be able to contact a parent, we will let you just come and talk to us about it.
Mrs. Page, is it the student or the parent?
The parents are the worst, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm
I will
with
tell you, 99.9% of the time, yes, Mrs. Milton, it is the parent reaching out to the student, and it stresses the student out. Well, what do you think? I'm putting you on the spot right now. You know that.
I think it's mostly beneficial because it allows people to pay attention more and be more actively participating in their classes.
You are hired. You are hired. And I think those are my questions. My questions were on the Google form to the students were, do you feel like you pay more attention, are more engaged in the lesson? And do you feel like you talk to your peers more and interact more with the teacher? Because, I mean, we're guilty of it. But, you know, once you have the phone out, your head's in your screen, you know? You know, and I do feel for some, like right here, I am going into my senior year. I believe that I should not be treated like a child. I will be going to college and don't think that should be the first time I am ever going to be held responsible for having my phone in a learning environment. I tend to agree, but unfortunately, you know, it does provide just a huge distraction for kids. Cell phone policy has not made a difference for me. I think the phone policy has helped. I get the background on it, but I definitely don't think taking the phones for everyone is fair. Some of us use the phones as a tool in school to help with math, like a calculator, not to mention some of us need a quiet background noise like music. It is amazing, that came up quite a bit, the music, you know, and students need the music to relax. I will say that, you know, the teachers do have access to put it through the classroom. Students can use their Chromebooks to access music as well, so that was always an issue that did come up. This might be the best one. Well, I don't have a phone, so IDK. So that was, so I laughed at that. So again, I mean, nothing, I don't think, you know, we knew teachers were gonna love it. Students are still, you know, struggling a little bit with it, but they've been great for the majority. But, you know, I think the more that we do it, hopefully, it'll just become the norm, you know. I think it's so important for these, I think they are so addicted. I have a principal's council, and I was talking with some of the students, and they literally are upset that we block Netflix. And these are like straight A students, and I said, really? And they say, yes. They said, you know, if I'm done with my test or whatever, and we're sitting there, it helps me to, I said, how about doodling? Like, how about like just using your brain and daydream? Like, those are great things for you to do, you know? I said, I don't feel bad that you're gonna be mad that I say, no, we're not getting Netflix back. But I think, you know, the kids are now in this age where it's really, they need to explore other ways to get through their boredom by using some of their creative mind and not just looking at a screen. So, I'm sorry.
I'm surprised that you didn't get any feedback that the kids are finding it beneficial because no one has their phone. So they're not anxious that they're missing out on something on social media or anything because everyone's off their phone. But,
right, yeah. No, well, some that would just say they don't, it doesn't bother them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think for a whole, it is helping students be more engaged in the classroom. You know, you're still going to have your students who are trying their hearts, and those are the kids that we want to help, that it's okay, you can be away from your phone. They have the toughest time.
Yeah, and they can use it at lunch, and so it's not like the whole day.
They can use it between classes and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I wasn't obviously happy about it when we heard, but, I mean, there's never been a time where I haven't been able to get in touch with my child in between classes.
Sure, yeah, if you know the schedule.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
when
or,
can
you know,
access.
if I send something, or
Sure.
she sends something, or vice versa, and it's replied whenever there's a break.
Yeah.
And
And
I
it's
would-
not taking away, like you said, the
Yeah.
distraction. I think,
I would, sorry to interrupt you, I would, again, if you have parents who are asking you, reiterate, if there's ever a need, they can always call the main office, and we will get you your child. You know what I mean? Like, if you truly need, or just come right up, come up to the school, we'll calm down, so.
And I think safety has always been a concern.
that's always been the
And I think that the phones are in the room, they're hanging in the room, so if there was ever a major incident, really what we want to do is we would rather communicate, I'm okay, you know, things like that, where, you know, we wouldn't restrict them, because then it raises more anxiety for everyone. So I think safety is always a concern, and if there's an issue, as Mrs. Page said, they're going to allow them, if they say, I need to talk to my mom, I need to find this out, they'll probably say, go down and, use it in the office and not just wander in the halls, but they're very aware of that, and the teachers should be aware. And if not, then just let them know, and they say, I needed to get in touch, and they weren't allowed to. I think we want the human aspect to still play through with their kids and parents, and, we want to make sure that they're safe and feel secure.
And that did come up a few times, that they feel safer, like even if it was just in the bag, in their backpacks. But again, we've gone that route since phones have been out, and it's just too tempting for them to go grab it, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we have our student representative update. Bella?
With the spring season came a lot of activity at the middle Sevier High School. A big thank you to all of our staff and students for making them so successful. An active Pride Week was held at the beginning of March, wrapping up with our academic bowl competitions for the middle school students and relay races and contests for the high school students in the gym. Both were great successes. We held our first ever career fair day for our high school students. We are so grateful to our community members who came to assist us. We look forward to growing and making even better next year. Our World Culture Night was amazing. It was great to see so many families come and share some of their home-cooked meals with us, and they were all delicious. Our World Language students were also inducted into the Honor Society. We were happy to be able to recognize all of their hard work and commitment. Our seniors attended their ball at LeBaron Country Club in Lakeville. Students had a great time dancing and singing the night away. They all looked amazing. The middle school had a few fun events in a short time. They had a field trip to the Franklin Park Zoo on the 31st and had Midnight Madness last Thursday night. The students enjoyed both events, and a big thank you to our staff for making it happen. The Howard students have had a packed-filled March in April. The Howard School grades 4 and 5 dance, as well as the grade 6 dances, were a great time. A big thank you to the Student Council and Little Leo's Club for organizing both dances. Thanks to the PTO, we had a fun-run staff DJ for both dances to keep the party moving. New enrichment clubs from Sandy Churchill are also in swing, where you can catch students participating in multiple clubs after school. On Friday, March 28th, the grade 5 students had a presentation provided by Young Audiences of America, where Albert Einstein came to life and presented his insights into the nature of reality through interactive experience. On April 11th, the 6th graders will continue an over 20-year tradition and embark on their nature's classroom field trip. During this time, all the students will literally unplug from technology while they collaborate on hands-on experiments and team-building activities. We are also in our 3rd week of our ST Math March Mathmas competition. We are in the semifinals, and winners will be declared when we come back from April vacation. In addition, the students are all participating in their statewide assessment of the MCAS. Students at Howard have a great mindset and approach about test taking, and they are trying their best, taking their time and believing in themselves. At the Rosa McDonald and Spring Street schools, grade 3 students are preparing to take the MCAS test for the first time later this week. They have been working hard on test preparation and have a very positive attitude, so we know they will do well. The entire school did an amazing job participating in the Winter Reading Challenge. As a school, students read for a total of 1,115 hours and 20 minutes. Broken down by grade level, grade 1 read for a total of 353 hours and 20 minutes. Grade 2 had a total of 427 hours and 20 minutes, and grade 3 had a total of 334 hours and 40 minutes. We are hopeful to surpass those totals with our final reading challenge that will be shared later this month. Kindergarten students had a blast on their field trip to Zeterian Theater in New Bedford to see the show Harold and the Purple Prince. They did such an amazing job, being a great audience, and we really had a lot of fun. Preschool registration is now closed for the 2023-24 school year, but there are a few afternoon slots still available. Please contact Mrs. Ellis at the Spring Street School if you are interested in registering.
Great, thank you very much.
Just a quick shout out, thank you, Bella, but to the casting crew of Legally Blonde.
Oh, yeah.
It really was a great show. They had 3 shows, Friday night, Saturday matinee, and a Saturday night. And just so proud of the effort and their skill and dedication. I'm always amazed at the performance.
Yeah.
Your
right,
trip,
yeah.
I want to talk, just, you can sit with that.
Yeah, so I forgot to put that on there too. The Europe trip, so they're getting ready to leave tomorrow from here. The bus will be pulling up about 2:15, 2:30. and they're heading, Switzerland is their first stop. They're super excited. They did create an Instagram and a Facebook page, so we'll be able to kind of follow them along in their travels. And yeah, I think we
How
did-
many
Yeah, I was gonna say, how
Awesome.
many?
I want to say there's 34
Okay.
in 7 chaperones.
It's, and
It's
we've
gonna be an
been,
amazing
it's
trip.
going to be awesome. And the itinerary is awesome. And we've been talking with EF because there's, just to make sure, but we're so happy to be with a company. I think that's
Yes,
a
they're
great.
amazing. We reached out and somebody, Paris, some unrest, but they're not even, they just travel by bus through, so there's no thing. And they're amazing. They really are good to work with.
That's exciting.
And then
So which cities are they gonna visit?
Switzerland, Zurich, then they go up Barcelona.
And in Barcelona, they go to the Lakes region of Italy, to Provence, and then the Riviera in France, and then down to Barcelona.
Wow.
Yeah, they've got 4 major
They're
stops,
doing a
I think.
lot of travel, but I think their longest bus ride is about 3 hours, so not
That's
too
not
bad.
bad.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
It's awesome.
That's funny that they're leaving the same day as Nature's Classroom.
Oh, yeah.
Don't mix them up.
Yeah.
Get on the wrong bus. I know, Nature's Classroom, excited for that.
Yeah, yeah.
And the weather, you might hear them say it's too hot, where in Nature's Classroom before, it's been snowing.
Yeah, you never know. I'm so glad we were able to bring that back. Yeah. All right, so next, before we actually move on to the other items under business, I just wanted to discuss our next 2 meetings that we have coming up, scheduled for May and June. They're currently planned for May 8th and June 5th, but I was wondering what the committee thought about moving our May 8th meeting up a week to May 1st, so we avoid the conflict with the town meeting. That way, we won't have any pressing time issues or whatever. But I don't know if everybody needs to check their schedule or are willing to say they can make May 1st.
There's no ban on our phones, so I just.
Yeah, all right.
I'm very
Don't
much
tell
in
kids.
favor of moving it up so that we have plenty of time to be at town meeting, to be present before a town meeting, and I'm available on the
The
1st.
first. Mrs. Milton, can you do the first?
I'm sure.
You
Yeah,
sure?
that's fine.
All right.
I can do
You
the
too?
first.
All right. So we'll go ahead and make that change. Maureen can, looking for
Sneak it
you
right
over
now.
there, yeah.
Have it.
Take that. No, we'll move the May 1 to May 1st, same time, 6 o'clock
6
here.
o'clock in house.
And then our June 5th meeting conflicts with the athletic awards that are held here at the high school that are scheduled to start at 6:30. So I was wondering if we might be able to just move that one up to 5:30 start, so that, I know I'd like to attend the athletic awards, and I think Mr. Bodwell does as well.
Is 5:30 enough time? What's on our June agenda usually?
It was a long meeting last year.
June was?
I think June was. Didn't we do the superintendent's eval in June
Well,
last
we're
year?
going to talk about that next.
Are we gonna be
Yeah.
angry and venting at that meeting?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, could we do 5, or is that too early? Or,
5 works
5
for
works
me.
for me.
I know you sometimes, Mr. Schmier, have trouble getting here earlier.
Yeah. I'm not sure. but I
Okay.
Do what I can to make it work.
Well, I mean, we can, we don't have to decide right now because it's not till June. So if we want to just keep that in mind and see if your schedule can make that work, and if not, we can brainstorm some other ideas. Does that work?
We'll have a better idea of what's on the agenda then.
Yeah, that's true, yep. All right. Okay, so now under business, we have superintendent evaluation dates. Mr. Bodwell's annual review is approaching, and just to bring our newest member up to speed, the MASC provides us a template that we use to fill out our superintendent evaluation, where each committee member will fill it out, and then a summative evaluation is typically presented at our June meeting. So if we choose to keep the same schedule, working backwards from our June meeting on June 5th, if Mr. Bodwell can get his documents and evidence to us by May 15th, then we can have our individual evaluations done by May 22nd, if that works, and that would leave 2 weeks for the individual evaluations to be combined into a summative one. So, do those dates sound Good.
What was the last date that you just said?
So it would be, if Mr. Bobble gets us his evidence by May 15th, and then it would give us about 1 week to be able to get our evaluations done by May 22nd. And then that would leave 2 weeks to get the summative one. And that's flexible. I mean, I don't think it will take 2 weeks to get the summative one, but, so we can, that May 22nd isn't a hard stop, but just to give us a target to shoot for.
I think that's reasonable. I think that we should shoot for getting our individuals to you, or whomever is going to compile them this year,
Yep.
and then have them get back out so that
Yep.
we can all make sure that our pieces have been included. And
Sure.
it should be pretty streamlined in the June meeting.
Okay, yeah, so that would give us the 2 weeks to be able to
Yeah.
do that, yeah. Okay. And I did actually put a template in our shared drive that we can use for our evaluations. And I put a copy of Mr. Bodville's goals that he had submitted to us in there as well. I know we have it stored elsewhere, but I just figured for reference, it would be in that folder. So we can use that when we're ready to go get started on our individual evaluations.
Sounds good.
Okay. Under business, school building committee reps. Mr. Bobble?
So what we're looking for the school building committee, and what we've had in the past, and it's actually part of the MSBA template, is to have 2 members be on the school building committee. But I think if we had one person listed as an alternate, that way if one of the 2 members could make it, we would have, still could have 2 attending the meetings. I'm imagining most meetings will be in the evenings, but some could be, dependent after school. In the past, I think I remember they mostly were in the evenings. Sometimes they were like early evenings, so they kind of went right before a school committee meeting, I think sometimes. So we just don't want to get to the point where we have 3 in meetings, so we violate open meeting law. So just looking for
Yeah, I mean,
recommendation.
as chair, I would love to be on it. I look forward to, I came on school committee right at the tail end of when this school was built, so I wasn't a part of that committee, but yeah, I would love to be a part of it.
I would as well, but knowing, I know Dave is gung-ho, so I'm happy to be the alternate, especially since I cannot be available during the day. I know you said mostly in the evenings, but, I'm less flexible with my time, so I'm happy to be the alternate.
And I think that, obviously our goal would be to keep everybody informed
Yes.
on everything and,
Absolutely.
communicate after every meeting, so we'll all be in it together.
Yeah,
so to
I'm
speak.
excited to possibly be a part of it. With my engineering experience and project managing background, I'm really anxious to get involved. I think I would really enjoy it, and I feel like I have something I can bring to that, where I'm not an educator. It's been a big learning experience for me here. So that's where I think I can bring some of my experience to value for the school community.
And having been, Sharon just opened a brand-new high school. Being in a brand-new school, I see a lot of things that I wish they had considered. Just being in the trenches and on the ground, there are a lot of oversight. So I feel like that's a perspective too. But I can always fill your
Oh,
ears.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the open communication between people that are on that committee and the school committee, the board of selectmen, and the town in general is going to be pretty important.
Sure.
We're also going to need to get input from all of those groups, and the teachers and administrators, so that we build a school that works.
And I think Dr. Oakley, I thought, did a really good job last time forming a very comprehensive committee. It was large, and when I already talked to MSBA about my initial thoughts of having, again, a larger probably than normal, with what they would consider normal committee, but I think it worked last time because it was very representative. There was school people, there was town people, there were people with great experiences, there were people there that had school-age children, people that didn't have school-age children, the people that worked in the fields, they were engineers and architects and so forth. So I think if we want to build the best school, we want to bring in people with varied experiences and listen to them. There'll be voting members, but so not everyone will be a voting member, but I think it's going to be really helpful to have a comprehensive group of people that a similar vision, but also have different opinions too, which is important.
So, Mr. Bardwell, what is that process of getting those other people involved outside of this group?
So the people, I've touched base with some people have reached out to me. My thought was after tonight, I'm going to be sending something out to those people who have expressed interest. And then I'm going to send out a Google form, actually, just so I can gather, roles, but also what their experiences are, because I want to have that information when I reach out to the MSBA, and not, we don't want to have a large committee just because these are the people and these are the roles they'll fill. Ultimately, they get to approve or not, so they might have to kind of push for what I think is most important for the building committee and the district, but that's where I think we're at. I've had some people reach out to me, and now I'll be reaching back out to them.
Okay. And last item under business is Inclusion Matters. Mrs. Dragonetti?
Okay. The mission of Inclusion Matters, as West Bridgewater Special Education Parent Advisory Council, is to build inclusive schools and communities. We do this by supporting families of students with IEPs and 504s and including regular education parents by offering advice, advocacy within the school system, and opportunities for education and community building through regular workshops and events for parents, guardians, and families. April is Autism Awareness Month. Autism is a neurological variation. This means that the brains of autistic people work differently than the brains of allistic or non-autistic people. Not lesser, just different. Join Inclusion Matters during the week of April 24th through the 28th in celebrating neurodivergence and learning more about the autistic community. Each school will hold an Autism Acceptance and Appreciation Spirit Week where we will acknowledge and celebrate our differences while learning about ourselves and each other. And I know this is something we're very excited about at Inclusion Matters. So please join us on May 18th for our final webinar of the year, Supporting Your Child with Dyslexia. Inclusion Matters and the East Bridgewater CPAC will proudly be welcoming Dr. Joanna Christodoulou, Associate Professor at MGH Institute of Health Professions. Dr. Christodoulou is a leading Massachusetts expert on dyslexia and other communication disorders. She'll present for 45 minutes about dyslexia, providing strategies for parents and guardians who want to better support their teen or child with dyslexia, and she'll take time to answer questions too. This event will be held on Thursday, May 18th at 7 o'clock on Zoom. Also on the horizon is our 2023 graduation seat raffle and our annual grant of gratitude. More info on both of these events will be coming soon. In the words of Temple Grandin, the world needs all kinds of minds. For more information about Inclusion Matters and our upcoming events, you can find us on Facebook at Inclusion Matters MA or by visiting our website at www.inclusionmattersma.com.
Great, thank you very much. Next is policies to open and review. Mrs. Dragonetti.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to open the following policies to review. BDFA School Councils, BDFAE1 School Improvement Plan, BDFAE2 Submission and Approval of the School Improvement Plan, BDFAE3 Conduct on School Council Business, CHA Development of Procedures, CHC Procedures Dissemination, CHCA Approval of Handbooks and Directives, CLB Administrative Reports, KDB Public's Right to Know, KHB Advertising in Schools, and JJE Students Fundraising Activities for review at our next meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion? We're just moving through the index. These are a couple of cross-reference policies from the ones that we're about to discuss and vote on, and we're just moving forward on this. Any other questions or discussion? All right.
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Speaking of policies, the
Hang on.
approvals.
So the policies that we have open, I'm going to move to rescind policies DDA, funding proposals and applications, DID, annual inventory, and GBEG, workplace weapons policy. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Second. All right, discussion?
Yep,
Mrs.
so
Milton?
DDA, DID, and GBEC, all three of them are no longer policies on the MASC website. So DDA was, the verbiage was incorporated into DD, which was grants, proposals, and special projects. DID we just couldn't find that policy anymore, and then we did a search of surrounding school districts, and we found that another district, I forget which one, had rescinded it back in 2019, so we removed it, so it's no longer on our policy index as well. And then GBEG, this is a general law that's illegal to carry a weapon into school property, which is under Mass General Law C.26910. So that is that for those.
Any other questions? Discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then my second motion, I'm going to move to adopt policies. GBA, Equal Employment Opportunity. GBEB, Staff Conduct. GBGE, Domestic Violence Leave Policy. GBGF, Family and Medical Leave. GBI, Staff Participation in Political Activities. GBJ, Personnel Records. GBK, Staff Complaints and Grievances. And KHA, Public Solicitations in the Schools, as written. Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion.
All right, GBA, Equal Employment Opportunity. We made some minor edits to include all protected classes. And just a note from MASC, although it's not usually necessary to have a policy that simply restates existing law, in this case it's important to reaffirm the school committee's commitment to equal opportunity and to remind the hiring authorities in the districts that many considerations other than district educational goals are factors to be considered. For GBEB, staff conduct, again, minor edits, just to basically align with MASC. We've removed some of the procedural information, which is included in the staff handbooks. GBI, staff participation in political activities, minor edits. And then GBGE, domestic violence leave policy. GBGF, family medical leave. GBJ, personnel records. And GBG, staff complaints and grievances, and KHA, public solicitations in the school. There were no edits made. We just updated legal and contract references.
Any other discussion? Any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I do want to make one selfish plug. We did finish Section D under fiscal management for today.
Nice.
And provided nothing was missed. Yeah, that was a huge win.
That is always a huge
Yep.
accomplishment when you cross
It
off
was,
the letter.
felt good.
Yep. It did feel pretty good.
Yep. Thank you again for all your work on the policy reviews. Next up is warrants.
All right.
Mrs. Dragonetti.
The following warrants were issued and paid for the fiscal year 2023. Bill warrants on March 2nd, 2023, there was no warrant. On March 9th, 2023, $147,378.46. March 16th, 2023, $94,735.39. March 23rd, 2023, $160,001.14. And March 30th, 2023, for $80,408.80. The following three payroll warrants on March 3rd, 2023, for $562,843.54. March 17th, 2023, for $548,834.53. And March 31st, 2023, for $570,588.08. As always, all warrants are public record and once signed are available in the Selectman's office for review.
Great, thank you very much. Next, public comment. Members of the audience wishing to address the committee may do so at this time. Audience members are reminded that personnel issues or issues that would violate student confidentiality cannot be addressed during the public comment. All right, seeing that we have no takers, we will move on to calendar events. District-wide spring break is approaching, April 17th through the 21st. Half-day will be held on May 3rd. District meetings, PTO, May 3rd at 7 o'clock in the Rose L. McDonald CAF. The next Music Boosters meeting will be at April 10th at 6 p.m. in the Middle Senior High School Band Room. Our next athletic boosters meetings will be April 12th at 7 o'clock here in the Learning Commons. And the next superintendent coffee hour will be held on April 14th at 9:15. That's in person, right?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Do we know what school is up?
Probably do it back at Spring Street.
At Spring Street, okay. In the Middle Senior High School, April 12th, the class of 2024 info night at 5:30 in the auditorium. On April 13th, there'll be a Wildcat Pride Breakfast at 8 a.m. in the CAF. April 25th will be the Tri-M induction in the auditorium starting at 6:30. April 26th, honors breakfast for the high schoolers at 7:45 and at 9:15 for middle school, both held in the CAF. April 26th will be the NHS induction at 5 p.m. in the auditorium. May 3rd, the academic showcase is scheduled for 5:30 in the auditorium. May 5th is the junior prom, and May 6th is the Toll Road Scholarship Drive. At Howard, we already talked about big day tomorrow, where grade 6 will go to Nature's Classroom through the 14th. On April 12th, Math Masters for grade 4 will be held. Upcoming MCAS dates, grade 4, April 13th and 14th for ELA, May 9th and 17th for math. Grade 5, April 12th for ELA, May 2nd and May 4th for math, and grade 6, May 8th and 9th for math. Also at Howard, April 26th, Life Touch Spring Pictures will be held, and on April 27th, there'll be a school council meeting at 2:45. At the Roselle McDonald School, their MCAS for grade 3 will be held April 11th and 13th for ELA. On April 14th, according to Humphrey Pizza Party for grade 1, that sounds fun, which is sponsored by the PTO. We thank them for that. April 24th, school council meeting will be held at 3:30 in the RLM conference room. On April 28th is the grade 3 wax museum, another event, it's always fun. May 5th, grade 2 will take a field trip to the aquarium. And at Spring Street, on April 25th, there'll be a school council meeting at 3 o'clock. We did have on our agenda to adjourn and go into executive session, which we no longer need. So is there anything else anyone needs, or is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
To
adjourn.
adjourn, all right. Just to remind everyone, our next school committee meeting will be now May 1st at 6 p.m. here in the CAF, here in the Learning Commons. So I will second the motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, have a good night. Thank you.